All right. So thank you again for taking the time out for this interview. I am Dr. Janetta Brown, the founder and CEO of the ARC. That stands for the HBCU Experience Alzheimer's Research Consortium. And what a wonderful coincidence that I found a fellow Aggie to interview today in preparation for the launch of Research with Roots. I have with me here today Shanequa Taylor, a registered nurse. Let me actually start with your bio so that everybody can get a feel of your background and your career trajectory. Shanequa Taylor is a highly accomplished healthcare professional with over a decade of experience in clinical research and patient care. As a seasoned clinical trials director with a focus on oncology, Shanequa possesses a unique blend of clinical expertise and research acumen, which results in successfully bringing clinical trials to rural communities, ensuring patient safety, integrity, and building trust in vulnerable communities while building trust and rapport with patients, healthcare providers, and the community. Shanequa consistently demonstrates a commitment to patient advocacy and improving healthcare outcomes by leveraging resources to advance innovative technology and improve the lives of patients living with cancer. Her passion for health and wellness extends beyond her professional life as she enjoys an active lifestyle and is committed to promoting healthy living, decreasing the risk of cancer and the side effects of cancer treatments within her community. When not managing clinical trial efforts, you can find her making healthy alternatives to her favorite recipes. And I have questions about these recipes. Follow up. Powerlifting, hiking, nurturing her family, and working at her local hospital as an inpatient oncology nurse. So, again, thank you so much for taking time out for this interview. In fact, my background got started with health technology, design, and development. So seeing that you all are working on different devices that will help reduce the symptoms of cancer treatments in patients, the light bulbs went off, and I'm just like, oh, we have to connect. And lo and
No, it's so
behold, I
exciting.
think, yeah, we were messaging each other on LinkedIn at the same time when we first crossed paths. So that what a coincidence! I'm so excited to have you. Um,
I'm so excited to be here.
Send
Yeah, it was
you.
funny. Literally, I don't know exactly how we popped up in each other's LinkedIn, but we literally were saying hi to each other at the same
At
exact
the
time.
same time.
At the
Yep.
same time. It was really good. It was really good. And so I just want to put a disclaimer. Some of the technologies that we're working on are proprietary. So I'm going to say as much as I'm allowed to, things that are on the website and things.
Mhm.
But it's still investigation of some of the things, but very exciting, very exciting.
Absolutely. So your career spans clinical nursing, research leadership, and even pharmacy and clinical trials. So what initially drew you to clinical research?
So I always was really inquisitive, and it started in the eighth grade, and it really started with, I was in the eighth grade and I got a phone call from my parents, and they were like, "Hey, Shaniqua, we got to go to the hospital." And I was like, "Okay, what were we going to the hospital for?" Long story short, I learned that my 44-year-old grandmother, that was her last day on earth. And I was always curious about why did she not make it and other people that were 44 had it. Like she had a history of hypertension and diabetes, but so did my white counterparts. And I was curious as to why she didn't make it. So in my head, when I think about like why I was so inquisitive, it was from that moment for sure. So I went to North Carolina A&T. I majored in laboratory animal science, and the goal was always translational medicine and to advance and to decrease the disparities in our community.
Mhm.
Um, I ended up meeting a nurse while I was a research technologist at Johns Hopkins. And I was like, bingo, that is how I'm going to bridge the gap and
Mhm.
unify the bitch top and the bedside. And then I went to nursing school. And the rest is pretty much history. I ended up looking for some opportunities, and I'll get into that later. And it kind of was like, it was meant for me to be in this position now, and a lot of events happened for me to be here. In research, I feel is definitely the way to like unify the community with advancing technology.
Absolutely. And so many of us use our lived experience, we use our family influences to help shape our career paths.
For
And
sure.
so you having that personal connection, definitely it's a part of your why. It's a part
Yeah,
of why you went into this and the passion that you have now. In
absolutely.
fact, that leads me to my next question. How has your experience as a registered nurse shaped the way you approach clinical trials and patient care?
So for me, I always think most almost every time I'm at, because I still do inpatient oncology, and every time I'm at the bedside, I'm thinking about the patient's experience. Like I literally am thinking about that patient in the bed and how they feel in that moment. And for me, it's always the patient is first. And if someone asks me how my day is going, like not in front of the patient, I'll say, I'm grateful to be on this side of the bed.
Mm,
But it's me always being empathetic of the patient. And sometimes like cancer is tough. And sometimes the patients have big emotions, but it's me, the person on this side of the bed, regulating myself to make sure that they have the best outcome.
sure, sure. That reminds me of a lot that I hear from families that I work with where caregivers are caring for loved ones who have dementia. And there's a lot of self-regulation that goes
Yeah,
into that because
yeah,
you want to put your loved one first and make sure their quality of life is optimized and you're doing your
yeah.
best. And so keeping them in mind and at the forefront is what I hear a
Everything.
lot. And, it is everything. It shapes everything that we do. I've been a caregiver for several years, at least probably since I was old enough to help with my loved one. So
Right.
that your answer really resonates with me, and I'm sure it will with a lot of those that I work with in the dementia space.
For sure.
Let's see. So, in wanting to optimize patient bedside manner, optimizing their experiences, and kind of keeping their mindset at the forefront of how you interact with them, how do you and your team balance innovation with patient safety, especially when working with cutting edge biotechnologies?
So it's challenging. Like, so for me, it's really important to understand who the stakeholders are, right? For me, it's always number one, the patient. Then it's the sponsor, and then it's the PI. Not in that order, but as a trilogy, if that makes
Okay,
sense.
right.
Um, and so it's really hard, I've found, to please everyone. But if you put the patient first and you're advocating for the patient, all the other things for me seem to fall in line. And you have to learn how to choose your battles.
Hmm.
But also, like, nursing has taught me to prioritize things. So if you're looking at what has the most impact right now, then if you emphasize that when you're communicating, then all the other
Yeah.
things will fall in place.
What are some of those bigger challenges that you face when, wanting to maintain those standards? I know standards, building trust, rebuilding those bridges between the Black community and clinical trials and research in general. That's a
Yes.
very big topic. And
Yeah.
so, what have been some of those biggest challenges that you faced?
Well, Dr. Brown, I will say that we have been very fortunate. My PI has been in the community as a oncologist for over 20 years. And before I got there, he set the standard of how patients should be taken care of. So he started like the foundation of the relationship. And it was, and for me coming in as a researcher, him setting the foundation made it a little bit easier. He built the relationships in the community. Um, and so I will say that, well, can you repeat your question really quickly?
Sure, just what challenges that you all have faced in wanting to maintain those ethical standards?
Yes. So some of the challenges that we've had have been related to side effects of drugs. And so with the provider building the relationship, um, the main issue has been the side effects of the drug. And also, as me being, so I'm the director, but I'm also the one that's carrying out of a
Mhm.
lot of the study as we're building. And the patients don't know me. They don't know how the drug is going to react in them. So you really have to build a relationship with the patient, and there's a lot of education. I take so much time to make sure that they understand the side effects, and also like anything that's prophylactic or preventative that we can do to reduce the side effects. I'm doing that beforehand. And so I think that they see my effort in trying to make sure that they're safe, that
Mhm.
builds a trusting relationship. And also, there
Right.
was the instance of one of my multiple myeloma patients who had an adverse event. She had some cardiac issues. All of these were stated in the consent, but you plan for the worst, but you don't
Mhm.
actually expect it to happen. And I think that even though she experienced those side effects, the care that I gave her, the knowledge that I gave her, the
Mhm.
preventative treatments that we as a team came together to make sure that she got the right care that she needed, she actually stayed on the study and finished it. And it was pretty much like us just holding her hand through and being like, hey, we got
Mhm.
you. Yes, you're vomiting, your heart rate is not
Mhm.
stable, you need an echo, but this is something that could happen even if you took a medicine that was approved
Okay.
by the FDA already. The I always say that clinical trials patients pretty much it's a concierge service because it is so
Mhm.
regulated. So we're going to make sure that you get through it.
Wow, that was one of my other questions, any success stories that you could share, because I know in considering, what different side effects could happen and worst case scenarios, I think having that, what is that term? Your North Star goal. Like, what is it that we're working towards? What is the impact that the study could have? I think
Yeah,
that's the guiding light for a lot of folks who are in research and conducting clinical trials. So it's
yeah,
always great to hear about success stories, or even if something went wrong, but lessons learned, how you can iterate and improve for the next family and the next family. I know as a caregiver, we immediately become the advocate for our loved ones. And so knowing that they're in good hands is
mhm,
always so reassuring. So
absolutely.
part of your introduction, part of your bio included the successes that you've had in reaching rural communities.
Yeah.
So what strategies do you use to be able to reach this community and ensure diversity and inclusion in your clinical trials?
So our clinic is in rural North Carolina. It's in Wilson. I'm not sure if you know where that is.
I'm
But
familiar.
and our population is 50% Black and 50% white. So we I think that we do a good job of just understanding the needs of our population. A lot of them, I always think about Maslow's hierarchy, and if their basic needs are, you have to address that first.
Mhm.
Do they have food, water, transportation? And a lot of people in rural clinics don't think that they're associated with the patient care, and that should be a social worker's job. But if the patient doesn't have their basic needs met, and that's usually what you're finding in rural communities. How can they think about their health
Mhm.
care? And so we do a lot of research with, I'm sorry, a lot of partnership with grassroots in order to make sure we're partnering so that these patients can have the basic needs met.
Got it. Yeah, it's so important to be able to meet those initial basic needs first, because in many cases, I'll find, even with some of the virtual events that I host,
Mhm.
Some of the older adults, even for research with roots, they'll say, well, can you host an in-person component for this event? Because we don't want to get on Zoom. We want somebody else to do the Zooming. And so it just, once we see what our community needs, kind of
Yeah.
meeting them where they are, that makes
Mhm.
all the difference with being able to partner and have a successful program.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the reasons why I stay inpatient because it keeps my ear to the ground in the sense, and
Exactly.
that I
Mhm.
understand exactly what the patients need.
Yeah. So I remember visiting you all's website, and there
Mhm.
was a section called support, and it
Yes.
was for caregivers. There was support for the patients themselves. You all advocate for journaling, support groups, several different resources to help support your clients emotionally and physically
Yeah.
during their treatments. Are there are there any resources that you feel are missing or that you think might work better than others or should be introduced to that emotional or social support for those who come to your clinic?
To be honest, Dr. Brown, I want to say yes, but I can't think of anything that we're actually missing. We have so much support from sponsors and big pharma, because we're in rural, and one of our main things whenever we started was building relationships. And so we get gas cards and food cards. We
Wonderful.
have, I could say, we have every month our wonderful FMP. She puts together an event for support groups among patients within different cancer groups. And I guess on a little aside, she's leaving us soon and she's going to be the director of the hospital. So it would be nice to like see somebody take over that, and that might be a gap, but she's the person that pushes so hard for the support in the community amongst the patients. um, at this point, I don't think that we're missing anything. I just want someone else to carry that torch that
Sure,
she's
sure.
carried so much. And she's actually one of the people that go into the patient's room, and she's a nurse practitioner, but she will pray with them and support them in whatever ways emotionally that they need. So, being that she was the sole person to do that, I think we could use more support in that area. And that might be something that we could ask Pharma for, which they've been pretty helpful for us to make sure that we carry that forward.
Well, it sounds like the patients feel, so comfortable with you all to even express what their needs are.
Yeah.
Even something as personal as having someone to pray with them. That's
Yeah.
impressive. That's
It's,
exciting to hear.
yeah, it's a good place. It's a really, so I live in Durham and I drive an hour and a half just to work there,
Wow. Okay.
because it is very unique. It is very unique.
So are there, actually, how can I rephrase this? Where do you see the future of clinical trials heading in the next 5 years, especially in oncology research?
So for me, I'm gonna say that I don't know if your audience is familiar with like gene specific therapy and CAR T, it really is in lay terms a type of therapy that only targets cancer cells and leaves the normal cells alone. But aside from that, I think we have quite a long way to go with that, because there can be some side effects. But to the point of like least risky technologies, there are some preventative devices that I think can reduce the side effects of chemotherapy, such as alopecia. There's one company who they develop a compression helmet that you put on your head during infusions to decrease the amount of drug that gets to your hair follicles. And I actually wore it. It's super
Mhm.
comfortable. Um, and so they also mapped it to how the PK, the pharmacokinetics of each of the particular drugs, for how long you need to leave it in. And so far, 98% of patients have a 70% reduction in hair loss.
Wow, that's exciting.
Very
I'm
exciting. I'm very excited. They
wow.
are gearing up to get FDA approval. We were one of the sites that were
Mhm.
selected for it. So
Wow.
because people don't want to do chemotherapy because of some of the side effects. They also have a
Mhm.
glove that prevents neuropathy, that you wear
Mhm.
during your infusions, not cold therapy, compression therapy. So it's way more comfortable for patients.
Okay.
Um, and we also are have some sponsors that are looking at their different routes of administration, which is kind of a passion of mine. That's one of in vivo. We did a lot of routes of administration studies to get the best effect of the drug and least side effects. So I'm excited to see how we can evolve chemotherapy and immunotherapies to have less side effects, so that I don't think that I was reading an article today, and I don't think that the initial goal was to cure cancer by 2050. But I'm still hopeful, but I also think that if we could decrease the side effects, that would
Right.
be an equally good avenue.
Mhm. Absolutely. I love having conversations like this. I'm connected to so many different startup accelerators for different cohorts where we have inventors and we have innovators working on different devices, working on different therapies, working on different technologies that serve similar purposes. And so
Yes,
just knowing what's out there, I'd love to meet the folks who are working on this, whatever they're able to legally share with me. That
yes,
would be amazing. I think
yes,
that could even be a future session for Research with Roots where we talk with the inventors, the people on the other side of things who are coming up with these inventions and interventions.
yes. I would
Um,
love to. The creator of one of the technologies, actually, are you familiar with Briar Creek in Durham?
I don't think so.
Well, it's a bar that's really close to my house that his uncle owns. And when we were at the conference, that's how we connected. So he and we are acquainted, and I would love to, he'd be happy to talk about it.
Awesome.
And I'd
All
love to
right.
meet some of your folks too.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes,
We'll get it on the calendar.
yes, I'd love to.
Well, that leaves me with one last question. I know you have a busy schedule and it's a snow day where you are, so I will keep it short.
In North Carolina, how about that?
In North Carolina. Let's see. Are there any other patient stories or trial successes that have stayed with you and just reaffirmed your commitment to this work?
Yes, actually. There's one patient. When I graduated nursing school, I started working in an inpatient oncology at UNC Hospital. And there was a patient who, I think we were only like 2 or 3 years apart from each other. She had ovarian cancer. And she just had a really good, positive attitude about life. She was so optimistic. She was on the latest technologies about how to cure her disease. She was so knowledgeable about ovarian cancer. And so she and I used to talk about like joining support groups about for patients that had CA195, which is one of the genetic prototypes for ovarian cancer. And I went on vacation and came back, and she completely declined. And so that kind of broke my heart. It really broke my heart really bad. I ended up was like, what else can I do for her? What else can I do for her? I have no idea what to do. And so I was like, you know what? I need to like zoom out a little bit. And like patient care is really good, but like how can we cure this disease? And I started applying for research jobs, and that's how I got into this position. Um, Fast forward, we have some trials that are addressing ovarian cancer, solid tumors, and they have shown really good effects. Like progression-free disease, 90%, 7 months out. And so we're 7 months in. So really good numbers. And when I look at the data, I think about her. And she ended up not making it. But to see that there are therapies to cure those diseases, it kind of pushes me forward.
Absolutely. I feel like it's so important that, and I love that you shared so much of the work that you all are doing, because I feel like the community needs to know, what's going on, the work that's being done, the successes, um, just even learning from other people's experiences who have gone through
Mhm.
different trials.
Yeah.
I think it would make such a difference in our perspective or perception of research and why our participation is so important, and the
Yeah.
power that we hold when we participate in these different
Absolutely.
trials.
Absolutely. And even so, when you speak to the power, the drug may not affect me the same way it affects a Caucasian person. So it's really important that we have patients that look like us and have the same genetic profile as us to make sure that when it makes it to market, that it affects us the same way.
Hmm. And can be just as effective.
Yes.
I recently created a short video that talks about the power of our participation, and it speaks
Mhm.
to, making sure our voices are heard and our experiences are captured and our needs, our challenges are all reflected in future innovation. I feel like
Absolutely.
innovation is going to happen with or without us. And so, what better way to contribute than to work with African American researchers and research teams? So, that's the whole gist of Research with Roots. That's the whole gist of all these interviews and guest speakers that I host each month. And so, your contribution, this discussion, was everything to help
Yeah.
really set off this launch during Black History Month of
Yes.
all months.
Yes, absolutely. I have a question for you really quickly before we end.
Mhm.
This is our first interaction, so you hear a little bit about my passion. How can I help you? How can I help serve your community?
Wow, that's amazing. It's a wonderful question. I am looking to form nursing councils, advisory boards to help me keep my ear to the ground with where we are. What's the state of the art of Black health? What are the needs? What are the gaps? I feel
Yeah.
like I know enough to be dangerous and
Okay,
to
Danger.
have to have that support, to have that guidance, to have, people on the inside who look like me, who I can have as mentors, sounding boards and advocates.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. Any connections to additional resources, additional people that I can talk with, who might even participate in a future talk or future session. Any
Yeah.
referrals you might have, that would be awesome.
Yes.
And I do conduct what I call Dominion over Dementia workshops. So I'm
Mhm.
always looking for participants, places to host these workshops, and just really take it on tour and go
Okay.
nationwide. So
Mhm. I love that. I saw that you are coming to North Carolina soon, and so I'm going to send you some of my connections that we
awesome.
have around here. I'll reply to the email I got you. And if you
Awesome.
need anything else, we're connected now, so you know how to find me.
I truly appreciate it. Like you said, this is our first like one-on-one interaction where we can actually talk to each other. And so for you
Mhm.
to just be on board and see the vision and contribute in this capacity means everything. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful for the collaboration, and I look forward to interacting with you more.
All right, same here. I'll go on and stop recording.